Alright, today we're going to be tearing into a Polaris Ranger 700 motor. This is going to be real similar or identical to the Ranger 800. Also the Sportsman machines, the 700s, the 800s are going to be all real similar, maybe a couple different mounting tabs on those models. So the first thing we're going to do is pull this head cover off here. Underneath you're going to see our rockers, and we've obviously pulled this motor already, and I loosened up this bolt here, kind of moved that dipstick around, a dipstick tube to pull that motor without ruining anything here. So check out other videos as to pulling this motor, and we can show you how we did that. We've got the head cover off now, and we've got a O-ring underneath here. If we're going to reuse that, just be really careful we don't rip it. If we're ordering new parts for this machine, I'm going to order a new O-ring for that. Now our rockers here on top, I'm going to go ahead and pull those at this time. They're 10 millimeters on top, and just loosen those up. And I'm going to set those in the same order as they came off. And then we got our push rods underneath there. And there's our push rods here. These are all the same, so no need to keep those in order. And then we've got a 9/16, and this is a going back together. You want to make sure that these are torqued to the factory specs. The nice thing is on these Polarises, they use the push rods, and so you don't have to worry about timing up top here. Coolant, we just pulled the hose here, and then the hose down by the water pump, clear down on the bottom of the motor here, and so not a lot as far as that's concerned. Now to take our head off there, oh, you can just kind of tap. These dowel pins here on either side kind of hold that head into place there. So the head looks good, valves look good, no major wear, not a lot of discoloration on any of this. Boot looks good. The exhaust manifold, another common problem with these Polarises is the exhaust manifolds will crack. They have an updated one that is 4 times the price, but it is updated. So we've got our head gasket here, obviously going to replace that. This one is not terrible. What you can do now at this point, you can actually see if it's the crank by turning this over. And I'm not seeing a lot of damage here. If you spin this, we look for damage in the cylinder, not seeing a lot of damage there. And this sometimes will help raise that piston, or yeah, the piston's right out, or the cylinder right off the cases. And you just kind of lift those up. You just kind of walk those out just like this. And there's your cylinder off there. Obviously going to replace this base gasket here. That's a paper gasket. And here is your pistons. Now, the common problem is movement on these rods here. And there we go. Got about 1/8 of an inch of a free play on this, and I'm not talking this way, sideways, although that is sometimes an issue, but this one's up and down. If you can hear it when you rev up your machine, more than likely you've got an issue like this where that crankshaft, those bearings down in that bottom of the rod there is just completely destroyed. So we are actually going to split this case, and we're going to get right down into that crankcase. I'm going to flip this motor up. Hopefully you guys will be able to see all of that this way. We haven't drained oil out of here yet. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this flywheel and pull the stator here, pull the water pump, get that all out of the way so we can split this case here. We've got 10 millimeter bolts all the way around here. We have our stator wires here on the bottom. We've got a sensor wire up top there. So again, 10 millimeter bolts all the way around this flywheel cover. We do have, I believe, a couple different sizes here. Going back together, we'll make sure and clean these cases up really good. This cover's been taken off before because this thing is filled with liquid gasket maker here. Which, water wasn't leaking in there, that's for sure. Oil was though, which isn't good. So that is maybe where all that oil went, because we were low on oil. I'm going to pull this flywheel here. If we're putting a crankshaft in here, which obviously we are, we're going to be putting new seals in as well, so that will take care of that problem. That bolt is off. Now what I like to do, I like to take and stick this nut back on there. Flywheel puller, and if you're needing one of these, make sure and let me know. I do sell them, but that's what the flywheel puller looks like on this model. So let me know if you are needing it. Go ahead and slip these bolts in there. These come with the puller. There'll be 3 of them. Snug these up. You don't want to take them down too far. You want to make sure that they're in there far enough to where all those threads are touching. But if you go too far, if you grab an impact, run these all the way in, you'll go straight into that stator and damage that stator, which you do not want to happen. That's an expensive fix, so just don't go too far in there. This one takes a 19mm on top here. Don't get your fingers underneath. There we go, you feel it pop off. Sometimes, I'll show you a little trick. Sometimes if it doesn't pop off, what I do is take my impact, leave it on there. I'll just take it, slam on there one time, and that kind of puts pressure down and bounces that off. So our flywheel is loose. And we'll take your nut off of there. If you don't, you won't be able to pull this flywheel. Alright, flywheel now is off. We're going to let more oil drain out of there. I'm going to set that flywheel with the cover here. That's going to take parts cleaner and clean all up, because that's no problems with those. We're going to reuse all this. This is our starter drive here. Clean that up. That's alright if that's oily, but you don't want oil in this housing here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this flywheel, or this stator now. We've got a 5mm Allen that we're pulling here. All these are these 3 screws off, and then we have a cover here that's a 10mm. 3 screws. That stator is ready to be pulled, except for a 10mm over here, and 10mm there. Now this will all come up. That stator is off. I'm going to pull now the water pump cover. It takes a 10mm. Alright, this cover is off. All these are the same size. These are all fairly small. Oh, nope, they're not all the same size. We got one that's an oddball size. 2 of them that are oddball size. So, another O-ring here, and we'll pull this cover now. More 10mm. I think I need to spin this around here. We may need to pull the starter for this. So we already have one starter bolt loosened because of the ground wire. And there's the other one. Got the starter off, 2 bolts holding that one on. So that's a 13mm bolt. washer on there. Pull that so we don't damage it. Usually just kind of walk out of there like that. I thought maybe it would pop up with that cover. Tip this motor over here quick. I'm just going to let that drain. Alright, that covers off. We got some gears in behind there, but they're not going to just fall out. They're all held in by something, so there's the bolts there. We got this cover off. Again, we'll clean this up real good. There's a balancer gear here, and these do have to be aligned. So you can see there's a bolt here, and underneath that bolt is a dot. I'm just going to take this marker here, and those will mesh together. So that's to pull these pistons. I'm going to grab a pick or a small screwdriver and get in behind these circlips here. I'm going to pry these off. Then you push the pin out just like that. And then same thing for the other side. Get in behind that clip. I like to put my finger kind of over that clip so it doesn't go flying across the room. And you take that pin. And this one might be a little bit harder. This is the crank that's bad. Sometimes when that crank is bad, it will get enough heat on there to where it makes it difficult to push that pin out. But you would not want to tap in it like this if your crank was good. And it really wasn't too bad. It didn't come out bad. Alright, we will pull these gears here. This one is spring loaded, so there'll be some pressure on this one when you take this apart. And on this one here, now sometimes they can stick on there, and the reason why Polaris did what they did here is because if they do stick on there, what you can do, you can use just a regular claw puller, put it on there that you can line these up. There's 3 threaded bolts right there, bolt holes. You can thread these in there, and you can just pull it out like you would. Oops. Like you would a flywheel maybe, or another gear. We'll actually use that puller again on this side. It's kind of the same system. You want to make sure these bolts are threaded down as far as you can go, but you also want to make sure they're threaded evenly so that it's pulling on all 3 bolts the same amount. Once you get those threaded in there really well, take and run this puller. Alright, and that gear will just come right out of there when pulling them. And then the oil pump here, what we've got is a 3/16 Allen, and these bolts, you just line up these holes because these Allens are down in behind there. Alright, then there's your oil pump there, and you can just kind of wiggle that up and out of there. This will sometimes stay on the bottom, but you can just set that back in there. So there's the oil pump here with the gear there. and we will go ahead and pull this other gear. Now these bolts here are going to be much longer on this puller. But again, you just want to make sure they're completely threaded in before you go to pull on it. Again, make sure they're even. You can see that when you pull this up. Make sure that they're all the same length. Run this in. There we go, and there it went. Next, we'll remove the cam holder plate. That is right here. It's some Torx heads. It's a T30 is what this one is. This is what holds the cam in, so. If these were still in there, you would not be able to pull this cam out as easily. So those would be falling down onto the cam. So there's the cam there, and that cam is in really good condition. A lot of times you can see wear on the loads or some other sort of damage. So we will flip this motor over. Here's your crankcase bolts here. $14 crankcase bolts, 15 crankcase bolts. And I will set this up this way. But most of the time it's pretty easy when you're pulling it apart. That is the top of the case here, and then we've got the crankshaft here. Here is the crank balancer, and there was a gear on here, and then here is the crankshaft. So we've got kind of an oil strainer here. We've got your oil screen in the bottom.